lockdown. They can't do nothing to it.
You have to pay your debt tonight.
I never seen a pit bull with a perm.
I ain't scared.
Whoever let you walk out the house with that jacket is not your friend.
Think that you can move into my neighborhood? Waving your hands in the air like you just don't care?
Feels like we in a horror movie.
Family, you get that?
We are in this together, John.
You're making me nervous.
I've been telling you the truth.
We're adding new titles every day to our awesome collection of blockbuster movies, from Hollywood to Nollywood. Download the app and subscribe. This isn't just a streaming channel. This is a bold new world of entertainment. Arise Play, beyond streaming.
MovieBox and IndieView Festival Lagos, presenting the winners of the short films competition for March 2022. Tear. Ungiale.
Keitra serves schoolgirls at night. Even after death.
Off the air.
This is Hot Topics at Dusk with Abib and Jesse. And we're getting everyone's opinion on a peculiar occurrence.
Can you hear me clearly now?
Yes.
I'm not calling about the hot topic.
Okay, so what are you calling for then?
These short films are available to stream now exclusively on Arise Play. You too can be a winner. It's not too late. 3 winners are being shortlisted every month. Do you think your short film can compete and win at the IndieView Festival? Then visit @ArisePlay and @IndieView Lagos on Instagram for more information on how to submit your entry. Jumpstart your movie career and get on the path to fame with the exclusive IndieView and Arise Play MovieBox partnership. Arise Play, beyond streaming.
A very warm welcome to this week's 60 minutes of analytical review of the big stories, topical issues, and all the controversies around the whole world that happened during the week. I'm Somna Sambo. Now we'll go straight to the headlines. Uncertainty over delegates lists of political parties following the delay by President Muhammadu Buhari in signing the amendment version of the new Electoral Act, which is confusing party leaders and presidential aspirants. And Ahmed Idris, Nigeria's chief treasurer, suspended as Nigeria's Accountant General following allegation of money laundering by the EFCC as the anti-graft agency tracks more properties linked to his family members. And Hassan Sheikh Mahmoud makes history as the first politician to be elected president twice in Somalia's nascent democracy. Mahmoud faces fresh hurdles of uniting divided political leaders in Somalia. Now, there's a high level of uncertainty over the category of persons that will make the delegates list of political parties, including the governing All Progressives Congress and the main opposition People's Democratic Party, following the delay by President Muhammadu Buhari in signing the amended version of the new 2022 Electoral Act. With few days to the party primaries, tension is high on the delegates list to be used, as statutory delegates have been shut out through the National Assembly's erroneous omission of the process during the making of the new legislation. President Buhari's assent to the amended act would enable parties to know the exact number of delegates that will vote during the governorship and presidential primaries, among others, as statutory delegates were excluded in the existing version of the law. In the People's Democratic Party, some states and aspirants are already raising the alarm over alleged plans to use a fraudulent delegates list for the presidential and governorship primaries. Abia, Imo, Oyo, and Ondo are some of the states where there are controversies about the delegates list. The situation is not too different in the APC, as the delegates list is generating rancor in many states. Now, will the president sign the amended Electoral Act, or parties will have to rely on the democratically elected national delegates list, which some politicians say may not meet the expected quorum as contained in the constitutions of political parties? We'll have analysis. Well, joining me in the studio to analyze this development is Biodun Ajiboye, who is a political strategist, public affairs analyst, and member of the governing All Progressives Congress, APC. And also in the studio with us is Kasima Fegbua, a foremost media advisor, former commissioner for information in Edo State, and leading member of the main opposition People's Democratic Party, PDP. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I start with you, Kasim. How could the National Assembly have made such an erroneous mistake in shooting themselves in the leg? Because with this, even the national working committees of the political parties won't be able to vote in the election.
Well, I heard just before I entered into your studio that the president has assented to the act.
Well,
that's what I heard. So
I spoke with Garbashehu not quite long. He denied that, saying that as far as he's concerned, there is no information to that effect, that he's just leaving the airport, of course, during his trip with President Muhammadu Buhari, and they are coming back to the country.
Under APC government, which my brother here belongs, anything is possible. They can turn night to day to night. So I won't be surprised if by the time we're leaving this studio, you are seeing the news as a breaking news. But again, it tells you about the unseriousness of the legislature in this country. And at times when we raise concerns, and we raise doubts about their sincerity of purpose, the objectivity behind the lawmaking process, people tend to think that we're just playing opposition for opposition's sake. But for a country, you don't even need to make laws to please the whims and caprices of individuals. A law that should outlive a tenure of anyone, or that should outlive the individuals who are calling the shots today, you end up saying that these laws are just tailored towards individuals. This electoral act has been a point of divergence in the last 3, 4, 5 years. They have been going forth and back. It's either they pass it, the president is not signing, or the president is signing, they are amending and all of that. What is so big a deal, in just articulating your legislation, look at the country holistically, and come up with provisions that will help to, smoothing and deepen democracy, both internal democracy in parties and even the credibility of the electoral process. But what we are seeing It's just a situation where the legislature, we call them rubber stamp legislature with due respect, but you know, it's annoying when you see this kind of scenario. Laws that are made
to you, Biodun. I mean, how could we have such a situation? I mean, this is the very first time that we're going to have statutory delegates not, you know, voting in crucial primary elections like this, especially in a succession presidency that we're going to. If President Muhammadu Buhari doesn't sign this,
I'm sure he would sign.
What gives you that confidence?
Yeah, because he doesn't, he shouldn't enjoy the level of confusion that will break out, you know, as a result of his not appending his signature as it is rightfully expected. But beyond that, I think the oversight on the part of the legislature is humongous. It's almost unforgivable. Nigerians should take it so seriously. They have no other business than to legislate. Why should they forget? Why should they make a mistake? Like
because what this means is that the lawmakers won't be participating. Even President Muhammadu Buhari and Yemi Osinbajo wouldn't be voting.
The Senate president should be held responsible for that error. As simple as that. If you administer a domain and your domain is getting so flabby, flustered, confused, it shows leadership has a problem.
Interesting. Well, he's also one of the aspirants contesting for the presidency. Yeah. Let's come to the aspirants, how they are taking this and how it may affect their calculations, because you need to know the number of delegates that are coming for the presidential primary and then work towards it and all of that. Since the statutory delegates are left out now, should they be working with only the democratically elected delegates, where you have like 3 for the elected for the state governors and then the other ones for, you know, the presidential polls? How should the aspirants be handling this?
Well, I want to believe that before Monday, we should be clear about this, because it will only affect, you know, it will only affect the timing of the elections ab initio, because PDP, for example, ought to do House of Assembly primaries today, you know, for House of Assembly elections. So it's been shifted to tomorrow, then Monday, and just in that order. But you see, just like I said, at the presidential convention, we're expecting 3,700 delegates in PDP. And so if... Including or minus the statutory delegates? Well, yes, everything put together. But if this, we are working on the basis, on the assurances that the act will be signed, you know, and you see, it tells something about the character and the content of our legislation, legislative process. When you prepare a law, the law was with you all these years, all these months. You have your draftsmen. They put it into order and everything. You feel the very important segment of it, which has to do with the delegates that will choose, you know, candidates to represent each party. It tells you that there is no meticulous attention to details. It tells you that they are in a hurry, working from answer to question, rather than from question to answer, providing the basis for deepening our democracy, and particularly internal democracy. You see, we tend to trivialize too much about the democratic process, the electoral process. We see ourselves as lords today, so we must make laws that suit our whims and caprices, because we feel that, oh, we are calling the shot. They said it was legislature's coup d'etat against the governors. They didn't want the governors to start, you know, dominating the entire delegates process. Now, in the process of doing that, they left the critical factor, the critical ingredient. They shot themselves in the foot, in the ingredient. And now they quickly took the law back to the National Assembly, and they do it hurriedly and all that. You see, lawmaking process and lawmaking processes are very detailed, very profound aspect of legislation. That's why in advanced democracies, it can take you years, even centuries, to even amend one particular, you know, act of the National Assembly or Parliament. Okay. But over here, when the president turns this way, the Senate president will look at him and say, okay, he has turned that direction. Let us go in that direction. It's so ridiculous.
Now, Biano, if you were the president, would you, as Buhari, sign this amendment, considering that Buhari also complained about Section 84, subsection 12, and the National Assembly refused him that camaraderie to actually, delete that section from the Electoral Act?
First of all, let Kasim not come here and speak as if PDP was better in their time. Let him not come and talk as if he's from Acapulco and
in
not
Mexico.
Not a Nigerian, and as if no, please don't do that. Now, let us be very honest with ourselves. Whether the president signs or refuses to sign, or he mistakenly does not sign, at the end of the day.
How can the president mistakenly does not sign?
Well, whatever it is, but okay. if we do not have his signature at the end of the day, we carry on, and what has it taken away from us? It has only meant that, okay, fine, rather than work with 7,800 delegates, we're working with less than 3,000 delegates.
Which will even make it faster, and the results may come out earlier.
Conserving funds, working faster, but that does not take away the fact that an error was committed. It's not meant to, delegates, the statutory delegates were not meant to be shut out of the process. Shutting them out of the process amounts to disenfranchising them. Disenfranchising them amounts to some breaking the law somewhere. It is not fair. However, we look at it.
Kasim, a former deputy president of the Senate, Ike Kwerimadu, who is also a governorship aspirant, raised a very critical observation earlier this morning in a press statement, saying that, look, the constitution of the People's Democratic Party says that there's a particular quorum that must be met when you go to convention. And that if we have only the elected delegates going to the convention or the congresses as it is, that they may not meet the quorum that the constitution of the PDP says must be met to elect a presidential candidate or governorship candidate, and someone can go to court to challenge that outcome.
You see, that's just one of the misnomer and the kind of situation that a taciturn president will foist on the people. And my good friend is saying that I shouldn't come and say as if PDP is any different. In the days of PDP, the National Assembly had a robust engagement. That's why you couldn't have a third term. Even though PDP dominated the House, Obasanjo couldn't amend the law. So they sent him out. And in the days of Saraki recently, we saw another robust, National Assembly, because he wasn't working in tandem with what the executive wanted. You see, the point is, the legislature must at all times see itself as an independent body that is meant to make laws for Nigerians and not for the president. You see, they're always missing it. They want to please the president. They're not just go this thing. They have already become a robust assembly. That
well, they try to assert themselves by not also agreeing to remove that section 84, subsection 12.
It is because it is also self-serving. It is self-serving to them, because if you remove it, all these persons are going to remain in office while they are calling the shots. They want them to leave office so that they won't have undue advantage. You see, that's the issue. We should be looking at the country in a more holistic sense. Anytime you are making laws, particularly laws are very sensitive. Look at the country in a holistic sense. Derive your inspiration from what will happen to the country, not from what will happen to your own selfish end. So that when you make laws, they outlive regimes, and they will be therapeutic enough to address the salient issues confronting us. Now, with this kind of taciturn approach, Mr. President, he knew that the law was not been signed. He traveled to Dubai to go for a burial. That he sees a burial ceremony or whatever of another country that
what if he's also replying the National Assembly based on their earlier refusal to accede to his own demands?
You don't subject the country to your whims and caprices. The president of a country must live above board. He must be all-embracing. He must see that the country as his own constituency. And if I don't do this, what's the implication? You know, it's only in Nigeria that the president assumes almost all the powers of the constitution, and nothing happens.
So, Biodun, how do you see these presidential aspirants taking this? Now, if you're in one of the political camps of the presidential aspirants in the APC, whether the leading ones or the pretenders or the minor ones, if we make of course, the contenders are the leading ones, how will you be taking this?
Let us face the situation as it is. In the APC today, there's only one candidate who democratically believes that there is an opening in the presidency, and there will be election come February 2023, and we need to do everything democratically possible to vie for that position. Only one.
I'm very sure my viewers will be interested in knowing that one person. Who is the person?
Some other people are waiting for what they call the establishment to endorse them, and that's the only reason why they took the form in the first instance. Some are living in some fixation that the president will say, "This is my candidate."
So who is that person?
Some are only feeling a vacuum. They say, "Okay, let me take the form and let's see how it goes." Some are looking for positions to negotiate. It's not everybody that's taking that form that is serious in APC. Otherwise, what we will do with over 30 people aspiring to be president in a political party? How do we manage that? Now, so let's come to the individuals, at least the front contenders. We have, of course, we have Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, we have Amechi, we have Osinbajo, we have Fayemi, and we have a lot of others that have withdrawn. When they said they should resign, they quickly decided to say, "Oh, no, I can't resign. I'd rather forgo that 100 million.
Because and those, you can couldn't see that tell whether the president will anoint them.
You can see that there are categories of interest. Now, Asiwaju is a politician. And Asiwaju is not just sleeping and waking up to the feeling of, "I want to become president of Nigeria." He has worked towards it. He has invested in people. He has envisioned that idea for over 30 years. It's not just waking up. It's not waking up to a training of 7 years or 6 years.
That's why he said it's been his lifetime ambition.
Well, lifetime ambition, I do not know, but I know for a fact that he has been working towards it for a long time. How do you account for a man who took Lagos from nothing to something? You think it's a joke? A settlement is erupting right in the Atlantic Ocean, and American government is having their biggest embassy anywhere in the world right there. You think it's a joke? It's a product of somebody's imagination.
Well, you're talking about Tinubu now. I just want to ask you,
so now let me go to the other people.
That this confusion may actually affect his chances of emergence?
I don't know how. Whatever confusion
if the statutory delegates are not there, do you think Bola Tinubu can win the elected delegates?
Bola Tinubu will win in any circumstance from what I have seen. How? It's very simple. A man who does his own work. Let us forget any kind of hiccup that might arise due to some establishment interloping, cantankerous interference, whatever you want to think about. Let's forget about it. That will not happen. Let's look at a man who tours 3 states in a day. And when he gets to any state, the governor says, "Oh, this man helped me before."
Okay, let's hear from Kazim too. I mean, you are in the main opposition. How are the aspirants faring? And then in this circumstance, do you think...
Asiwaju is number 1. He knows.
In this circumstance, do you think that this lack of statutory delegates may affect any of the top contenders in the APC? PDP.
Yes, of course. Politics is all about inclusion. You know, it's all about participation. It's all about the more the merrier, you know. When you have your delegates and you have been working around those delegates, then it now comes, you know, middle of the game, and you are being told that because a law has not been signed, a particular proviso in the Electoral Act, that XYZ delegates will be participating. It will naturally affect your strategy. you're reaching out to those delegates, and how do you do the permutations? Because you have strongholds, you have your weak areas and all of that. So what are the figures in terms of balancing? Where are they more? There are more delegates in the south than in the north because PDP is stronger in the south than in the north. And so what's going to happen? If these delegates are taken out of it, how do I factor myself within the number of delegates that are going to be left by virtue of this legal cul-de-sac, so to speak? So, but again, because we still have a week to our primaries, Saturday, May 28th, it gives us an opportunity to also recalibrate our strategy.
Yeah, I'm also interested to know which of the political camps you're in.
Well, I have told you before.
You've been hitting hard against Atiku, so I know you're not there.
See, let me tell
there's
you.
Wike there, there's Saraki there, Tambowal and all of that.
Sumner, I am an unrepentant advocate of a southern presidency in 2023. Except you don't want to balance the political algorithms of this country in terms of geopolitical equilibrium, kind of. You had the northern protectorate, you had the southern protectorate. So when the presidency is leaving the north after 8 years, it's only natural. All those APC people who are collecting funds...
Have you found one of those presidential contenders that you're backing?
I've said it here and here. I've said it categorically that I'm saying my kind of person. I'm very blunt, I'm very bold, I've got guts. I don't owe anybody any apology for my position. Governor Nyesom Wike of Rivers, to me, appeals to my sentiments and emotions. And why do I say that? He's a man who say it the way it is. When he said recently that, there's a bit of madness in him, people were taking him up, and I was laughing. Former President Obasanjo said that you need to be mad to even be able to govern this country. You need a bit of madness in you. You see a Wike that is very bold, consistent, blunt, got courage, and all of that. That's one. Two, the other guys were those who joined APC in 2015 to defeat PDP. They left PDP, they are defectors, they came back, and by PDP's organic arrangement, they became aspirants again, contested election in 2019. They ran away when we needed them most.
Just quickly before we go on break. So now, do you foresee this lack of statutory delegates affecting your own aspirants?
No. Wike is going to become the flag bearer of PDP. By sheer hard work, diligence, an ability to network the delegates. If there are 10, Wike will have 8 of them.
Okay, just quickly before we go on break, Ajiboye, let's take a look at the APC itself. And how do you foresee the APC closing ranks to ensure that, this issue is settled very quickly so that they will know the number of delegates?
Okay, the issue of the statutory delegates and
elected. So that, aspirants like your own...
If by Monday the president doesn't sign, then we go back to the drawing boards and recalibrate, and then begin to see, okay, this state, Lagos State, they have 60 statutory delegates. Kano, they have 132 statutory delegates, or 162. So we now begin to say, okay, fine, let us penetrate, let us negotiate, let us discuss, and we will strategize.
Yeah,
quite frankly.
We just hope your man is doing all the strategies.
Oh yeah, no, you can take that for granted.
You have announced your own very quickly.
TV. If PDP chooses a northern aspirant as a candidate, I, Kasim Afugwa, will support APC if they choose a southern candidate as the aspirant. Openly and publicly.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, PDP.
I'm very sure you'll be cutting him after the session here. Well, it's time for us to go on a short break, and when we come back, we'll be talking about the man in charge of Nigeria's treasury until his suspension, a man under whose watch Nigeria's income and expenditure are supposed to be kept safe in a trustworthy manner. But according to the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Nigeria's chief treasurer, Idris Ahmed, has been arrested for keeping some part of Nigeria's funds with him. So we go on this break and come back to discuss that.
When we wanted to move faster and see more of the world, we found a way. We also found ways to connect beyond boundaries. And when an unprecedented pandemic tried to derail us, we found ways to get ahead.
Are we ready?
Ready.
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 As your bank, we have stayed proactive, creating dynamic solutions and leveraging cutting-edge technology to drive global expansion into new markets. We rolled up our sleeves to be human together, doing more, innovating smarter, and always showing up for you. So come on board, let's give you more.
Access more than banking.
Dear APC leaders, delegates, stalwarts, and members of our dear party, my name is Yahaya Bello, the Executive Governor of Kogi State and a presidential aspirant on the platform of our great party, the All Progressives Congress, at the forthcoming Special National Convention. I have a roadmap for youths, women, and persons with disabilities and special needs. I will ensure the inclusive qualitative education, social protection, empowerment, and employment, the provision of an affordable health insurance scheme for persons with disabilities and special needs. As a youthful president, I will connect our predominantly youthful population to harness their positive energies for national development. My government will also work to create gainful employment and entrepreneurship opportunities. Our leadership will ensure increased participation of women in government. I pledge that the affirmative action threshold of 35% stipulated by the Sustainable Development Goal will be the baseline for women in our government.
Here's a card we no go give you stress at all. Zero wait and zero queue. First Banky Petra card. Here's a card we no go give you wahala. Zero trouble now for you. First Banky Petra card. Tell off spoiler. Who won't break 'em? Where you want say 'em? Now only you get 'em. Nothing fit do 'em. Sharp, sharp payment not the way. Swipe they go, you know go away. Veteran card with the sweet body. Veteran card we know the shape person. We put you first again. First Banky Veteran card we put you first again. Generate your virtual card we put you first again. First Banky Virtual card we put you first again. Just generate your virtual card.
We started our journey over 7 years ago, connecting travelers to their favorite destinations. Since then, we've revolutionized how we want our passengers to feel while flying. That is why we've introduced our brand new Embraer 195E2 aircraft.
Everyone has a face they need to see.
We are on a mission to add new destinations to our ever-increasing fleet. Our Boeing 777 will take you on an international journey. Mumbai, Guangzhou, London, Johannesburg. And now, APC is adding a new destination, Dubai.
If you're gonna fly, then you should fly with us on
AirPeace flies you from all our domestic routes to Dubai from Lagos at no additional cost.
Welcome back from the break. Now, he was the man in charge of Nigeria's treasury until his suspension. A man under whose watch Nigeria's income and expenditure are supposed to be kept safe in a trustworthy manner. But according to the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, Idris Ahmed, as the country's accountant general, cannot account for Nigeria's funds kept in his care as he's accused of embezzling a whopping 80 billion naira and cornering it into personal use. Well, these are still allegations. Now, Idris Ahmed, who was in charge of the controversial IPPIS program to save Nigeria from losing monies, is now cooling off in the custody of EFCC as he tries to explain how he cornered the 80 billion naira allegedly under his watch. Media reports say more properties in Kano State are being traced to Idris Ahmed as the anti-graft agency widens its net during the investigation. He has now been suspended by the federal government in line with the civil service rules to give room for proper investigation and trial. Now, the EFCC says it invited the suspended Accountant General for questioning several times, but he refused to honor their invitation. With the 80 billion naira allegation hanging on Ahmed Idris, Nigerians are hoping that the EFCC will be able to prove its case and the matter does not become another unresolved high-profile corruption case in the country. And of course, the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, are already laughing out Idris because several times they've said that the IPPIS that was introduced by the government to save the country from losing monies is allegedly being infiltrated and money is being stolen through that platform. And they brought their own system, which is called UTAS. But unfortunately, the federal government rejected that and it was mired in controversy. And they are now saying that they're having the last laugh because the person who is accusing them of not meeting up to transparency and accountability is himself enmeshed in all of that. And I still have with me in the studio Biodun Ajiboye, who is a political strategist, public affairs analyst, and member of the Governing All Progressives Congress, APC. And also in the studio, Kasim Afegbua, a foremost media advisor, former commissioner for information in Edo State, and leading member of the main opposition People's Democratic Party, PDP. Gentlemen, let me start with you, Biodun. How much damage is this allegation to the APC-led federal government, especially the government of President Muhammadu Buhari?
It is disappointing. We can't have a government we struggled on the platform of being incorruptible in power, and we still record this level of corruption day and night. It's a problem.
Do you think it will affect your party's chances in the 2023 election? How will the party be selling its manifesto to Nigerians, especially on corruption issues, if you have such a huge quantum of monies allegedly being stolen?
Two things will happen. The communicators that will put the campaigns together have to put their heads down and devise means of communicating with the Nigerian people without actually obstructing their sensibilities. One. Two, Nigeria is Nigeria, and we all know the Nigerian problems. And efforts will continue to be made to solve the Nigerian problems.
Well,
does it mean that when PDP was in power, there were no corruption? Has there been any corruption worse than PDP in the world? So let's not begin to look at corruption as a party problem. Corruption is not a political party problem. It's a Nigerian problem. But what is worse in our case is that we seem to have a lot of eggs on our face because we said our party is going to be incorruptible. Our government is going to be against corruption. Our leader is a man that detests corruption, and we have corruption right in our net. That's where we have a problem. Well, but we can resolve the problem.
If your aspirant wins, you will have a tough job ahead of you.
No, we will resolve that when we get there.
I'm happy that he posed the question and he answered the question himself. You see, it is always ridiculous to me when I hear people wanting to defend the indefensible, right on their fingertips, by making reference to PDP that last governed this country in 2015. if by any chance Nigerians will want a continuation of PDP pre-2015, because dollar was still within 200 to $1, 200 naira to $1. Today is 600 naira under an incorrigible, president and party and government.
Please,
I need the APC. You see the APC.
Well, the realities are all
it looks like I'm being attacked personally.
No, you know the APC. I've always said they are peopled by men that I will refer to as chichidodo bird. A chichidodo bird is a very beautiful bird. It flies all over the place. He feeds on maggots, but he doesn't like the smell of feces. What produces maggots?
Rotten materials.
So you see the allegory. You see, the point is, it is, an impossible task for an APC to get itself off the hook of corruption that it has gotten itself. In fact, this is financial malfeasance. It is
person who is the treasurer of the nation.
They are called the economic buccaneers and predictors. They think only over how to take and take and take. How can one man in this wide world, with the kind of poverty that we are witnessing in the country, where even government is borrowing money to pay salaries, be sitting on top of 80 billion naira?
It's still an allegation.
And listen, it has risen. It has risen.
Former transport minister, that woman.
Listen, it has risen. No, wait.
How much did Alison Madueke sit on?
Let me finish.
Because you are calling 80 billion.
No, it has risen to 170 billion. You see, you know why I want to commend the EFCC. I also give it to that young man Bauer. I think if you give the man some semblance of independence and free hand to operate, I think he may do something different in terms of anti-corruption.
It's the same
fight.
APC government that found out this, so
yes.
I think it could be to your own favor.
No, it's good. It's that's what I was saying earlier. That the fact that a president appoints you does not mean you must dance to his whims and caprices. We must be looking at the bigger picture of the country. Nigeria. That will help us, Nigeria as a country, because 80 billion, 170 billion.
I'm interested in knowing how we can contain this corruption. How could we have institutions that will fail? I mean, we have the Nigeria Financial Intelligence Unit, which is supposed to track every money above, is it 500,000 to 1 million?
Sooner.
And I will ask that, look, going forward, especially as we are having presidential aspirants coming out here, if, for example, your own presidential aspirant emerges as candidate, what sort of message would he be putting as to curb corruption? How do we prevent a future Accountant General of Nigeria from stealing such a whooping amount, although it's still an allegation?
Please give me time to answer this question.
Okay, go ahead.
Leadership is very key in solving a problem of a country. We have not, as a people, realized the importance of actually putting a leader to resolve particular problems plaguing us. Let me take, for instance, a person, one of the aspirants called Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is a trained accountant.
I hope he's not partnering with.
He's a trained accountant.
Yeah, but this one is also accountant general.
One of his early work in life is that of an auditor. He has worked as an auditor in multinationals.
Who is the person we're talking about here?
Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
Okay.
Yeah, wait, please. I'm trying to make a point, and I want to be very clear. Therefore, as an auditor, one of your major responsibilities is to look at the chain and see where the chain is broken. Discover the breakages and amend it. That's what an auditor does. You look at the process, and he has been doing this all his life. He took this expedient knowledge to governance in 1999.
But he himself has been accused of
accusation. Has anybody gone to court? My friend, AIT owner, Raymond Dokpesi, did a documentary on Asiwaju, calling him all sorts of names, thieves and all of that. Asiwaju took him to court. The court had to tell Raymond Dokpesi to apologize publicly for his error. Has anybody taken him to court and gotten judgment? He was docked in CCB 2007. Did they find anything against him? Of course
so
not.
if he becomes president,
so I'm saying to you, a man,
do you think
that's what I'm saying. A man that understands the system, financial engineering, is the only man that can resolve our corruption problem. Corruption is a function of loose system. Our system is so loose that corruption is easy. It's not possible for one man to steal 80 billion.
In the regime that we have an IPP.
Not even about regime. We do not have a financial system that can curb all malfeasance.
Okay.
That is the problem. And Asiwaju has the know-how. Among all of them, none of them has that know-how. He did it in Lagos. How many times have you heard of corruption in Lagos? How many times? Well, I'm asking. I'm really sincerely asking. That is a man who knows how to manage, how to work on financial engineering.
Well, we hope the APC will give your aspirant a chance. Let's talk about if the possibility of, for example, a PDP winning and coming back. How do we block the loopholes to prevent our institutions from being raped? If indeed it is found to be true that the Accountant General actually stole this 80 billion naira.
You see, first of all, you need to get the right individuals to build the right institution.
Correct.
So that head of state, there will be check and balances. You see, there's too much powers located in individuals. And what is the definition of corruption? Monopoly plus accountability, plus transparency minus accountability. And monopoly plus discretion minus accountability. In anti-corruption study, they will tell you that if you allow an individual to be the sole determinant of a process, the tendency for him to abuse that process is very high, because it will impugn on his discretionary powers, which is where the lack of accountability comes in. That's the global definition of corruption: monopoly plus discretion minus accountability. Now, what you do in such scenarios in anti-corruption study is for you to break the powers of that individual into components so that 4, 5, 6 persons will be deciding a factor. In the case of the Accountant General, he alone punches the button under IPPIS. Once he punches that button, he goes. This is what they call.
Yeah, this is what they call. Many workers and their accounts are being pilfered.
I'm telling you, this is
people are not being paid fully.
It is a clinical way of taking money that doesn't belong to you, but emptying into somewhere.
Do you think ASU is vindicated, for example, after all the laughter they've been circulating all sorts of things on social media?
Yeah, they will circulate, but you know the system, the failure of the system to also recognize what obtains in the academia is also a misnomer, and it's a minus of an APC government that parade all the financial engineers.
So you think the PDP will do better if it comes back to power?
Of course, once bitten, twice shy.
And you say you're rooting for Wike. Do you think Wike has the potential to actually design systems that can prevent?
Sumner, just look at just take one item. Adulterated fuel was reportedly imported to Nigeria, which led to fuel scarcity some 2-3 months ago, isn't it? Did you hear anybody fired? Did you hear anybody sacked? It's business as usual for APC. So a party and a government that came on the strong plank of an anti-corruption, security and economy and what have you in 2015, now taking all these platforms to higher levels of corruption, higher level of insecurity, higher level of gloomy economy. How do you continue to sustain that kind of legacy? It's a terrible issue.
I guess the next government in Nigeria has a huge job to do,
a huge task,
and that's why some analysts have been saying that they don't envy the next president of Nigeria.
Nigeria will pray never to go back to PDP era. No.
Well, we have to move on.
This era now is worse off.
It's not. We are not seeing very well. PDP was the worst we ever had.
Move on to other stories now. Well, Hassan Sheikh Mohamud made history as the first person to be elected president twice in Somalia's nascent democracy after a landslide victory against the incumbent Mohamed Abdullahi Mohamed. Now, in a contest of more than 36 candidates, both men made it to the third round of what was arguably the most competitive election in the country's history. Eventually, 66-year-old Mohamud won and will now pilot the affairs of the Horn of Africa nation for the next 4 years. In his first coming, Mohamud served from 2012 to 2017 as head of the federal government of Somalia, the first government created after the end of a long period of turbulence that started in 1991. The long-standing civil society activist and educationist had only fully joined politics in 2011 when he founded the Union for Peace and Development Party. Throughout the turmoil Somalia suffered in that period, Mohamud remained in the country, unlike a number of Somali leaders who sought asylum overseas. When United Nations peacekeeping forces UNISOM left the country in 1995, he partnered with civil society groups to spearhead reconciliation efforts to bring the warring clan factions together. Gentlemen, we have a situation whereby Somalia is trying to set an example that if you're a good leader and you perform very well and somehow you're unable to make a second term, that maybe in the future you could be called back again to do what is necessary. Let me start with you, Biodun.
Yes.
Do you think this is possible? Because your party almost tried to return former President Goodluck Jonathan, who coincidentally is a PDP member. It looks like you were going around to go and borrow him into your party, but unfortunately he didn't pick a form.
I congratulate Somalia, first of all, because that country was almost getting extinct. For so many years they didn't have a government. And for God's sake, now they are able to, elect a president, and I just pray that they will be able to get their lives back. War is an experience that we should not pray for. It's a terrible experience.
Especially in Nigeria.
There must be no war in Nigeria, because if a war breaks out in Nigeria, forget that entity called West Africa. Just forget it, West Africa. But, well, let's talk about Jonathan. Some things are abnormal. And people like us feel quite terrorized, traumatized, when we see abnormal things happening, especially in APC. I am sure a group of people, I came here to discuss the kind of catastrophe APC was about to get into at some point, when some contraption of a group of people confused the president with respect to what they wanted and how they wanted it. Just about 4 of them, and the president gave in to their contraption, and somehow we had an interim governance in APC that never wanted to go, to the extent of they procured judgment and kept in a file and traveled and all of that kind of thing. Horrible things had happened in APC, and we are praying that those of us who used our sweat and blood to fight APC, to fight for APC, to bring APC to its state, God will vindicate us someday.
Okay.
It's not just fair. Well, bringing Jonathan back is a hell for anybody. Whoever thought of that idea needs to go to the hospital.
Well, I guess we are talking about Somalia here, and the idea is that, if you perform very well, you could actually be called back some days.
Well?
APC can speak from now till thy kingdom come. But the facts on ground, suggest that APC is heavily hypocritical. From their chairman to the last person, they are all former members of PDP who defected to APC. So they are in first level.
Except President Buhari and...
yes, Buhari. I said the party structure. Yeah. I'm talking about the party structure. Coming to Somalia, I will not congratulate them. I would rather sympathize with the situation of the new man, the Sheikh Mahmoud. Yeah. Because you see, if you trace the antecedents of Somalia, it's a country that is immersed in crisis, baked in crisis, still in crisis, and what this man is coming to inherit is humongous. As we speak now, about 350,000 Somalian youths are likely going to die as a result of famine in the next 6 months. That's the prediction of the United Nations. Why? Because there's drought in that country for some time now. So famine, about 4.5 million people are displaced out of a population of 15 million. So Somalia has been having its fair share of all these crises, internal insurrections and what have you, from the days of Said Barre and all of them. You see the communities in this, apart from Mogadishu, the Garkoa, the Luke, and so many of those communities, they are all in terrible times. So For a man who was president in 2012, 2017 and now coming on board, it could present some level of reassurance. Don't forget that they are just delegates, I would say parliamentary voters are the ones that, because it's difficult for you to organize a one man, one vote election in Somalia. And so if they're having that kind of scenario, it's a huge responsibility on the hands of this new man to begin to rally around all the factors. And how he does that with the ever presence of Al-Shabaab that has become more or less like they have a stranglehold on the country, even going to neighboring Djibouti and Kenya to carry out violent attack becomes another responsibility on the hands of this man. So rather than congratulate him, I will sympathize with him that he has a huge task on his hand. And so the world, African Union must develop a stronger ability to bite. You see, you have peacekeeping missions, 18,000 troops, all of that in Somalia and all of that. Please, for God's sake, they should take the fight further to rein in all these militants and at least allow that country some level of breather. With the war in Russia and Ukraine now, aids are becoming difficult to get in Africa. America is focusing more on how to help Ukraine. $40 billion today, $50 billion tomorrow, and all of that. So Somalia is left almost helpless. There's no resources, no aids coming on side.
Very interesting indeed. Yeah. We just hope that this new government in Somalia will do what is necessary to ensure that these deaths are prevented and that the country is stabilized and all of that.
We will not disappoint Nigerians.
Well, we must thank you so much. Biodun Ajiboye is a chieftain of the All Progressives Congress and a public affairs commentator. And of course, Kasim Afegwa is a former commissioner for information in Edo State. We must thank you for being on the show. Well, this is the much that time will permit us on the program at the moment. On behalf of our crew in London, Lagos, and here in Abuja, I'm Somni Sambo, and thanks for watching. See you next week.
My approach is to divide that into three components by addressing short-term problems, medium-term problems, and long-term problems. And for each one of these, identify a prescriptive range of solutions that must be applied as quickly as possible. So Nigeria is bleeding very badly now. Like a patient on the operating table, you need to stop the bleeding. Those are the short-term actions that must be taken. The medium-term actions that need to be taken are to then begin rebuilding the country by eradicating poverty as much as possible, by reducing unemployment to the barest minimum, by getting our children back to school, by solving the problems of the youth and dealing with many of our gender issues, by pushing back, rolling back the frontiers of terrorism so that you are able to deal with this problem. In the long term, what you want to do is to carry out a major transformation program of this country and make it one of the leading countries in the emerging markets that is highly industrialized, that has all of the linkages along the agricultural value chain, where you're also in a position to actually formulate policies pertaining to integrated rural development that used to happen during the First Republic. That you are going to make this economy export driven, that you look after the welfare of people who are weak and the downtrodden in our society, that you are able to put this country on the global map so that Nigeria can be respected around the world for the strength and resilience of its economy, for our heritage, our culture.
There's no other animal as courageous and majestic as the lion. But with only 50 lions left in Nigeria, they may soon just be a memory. When snares are used for bushmeat, we rob the lions of their food and risk maiming them for life. So please say no to illegal bushmeat and help protect the lions. Keep them wild and keep us safe.